I want to go ahead and start with the most controversial one, and that is the Netflix live action Avatar series. So, from what we know, it was announced in 2018 that Netflix was going to be doing a live action Avatar The Last Airbender series. They were going to be working on the series alongside the original Avatar creators, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. I believe I said that correctly, but forgive me if I said it wrong. They left the production in August of 2020 due to creative differences with Netflix, and they felt like Netflix wasn't honoring their partnership with the show. They got a new showrunner, Albert Kim, who's now doing the show. They released the cast list in August of 2021, and production for the show is supposed to start at the end of this year. So maybe the 2022-2023 area, we should be seeing the live action if nothing else hits the fan. So let's get into what we want to see or what we're expecting. So I have a couple things, and I'm going to let you guys, you agree, disagree, or go ahead and do your spiel. One, off the bat, we need to see better CGI.
Off the rip.
Yes.
Off the rip, we have to see the way the bending works, from all layers, fire, air, earth, and water. Gotta have big effects. And Netflix doesn't sell us short on stuff like that after watching other live actions like The Witcher, even Umbrella Academy, and other, like, even when they did the live action Marvel series, they didn't really lack on the special effects. But Avatar The Last...
This is like the Magicians, they did pretty good at too.
Yeah, but this is... He was saying with the Magicians. Isn't that on Hulu though?
That's a sci-fi. That's not Netflix.
Oh, cut that out, dude. Cut that part out. I watched it through Netflix. I thought it was a Netflix series. My bad.
Yeah, but yeah, it's on Netflix. It's not by Netflix. But off the rip. The second thing, and this is a funny, they gotta say my boy Aang's name correctly. If I get in that show and they call him anything other than Aang, I'm cutting it off. I don't want to hear no Ong. I don't want to hear no Katera. I don't want to hear no Sokka. I don't want to hear none of that. Say it right. Say your name right. What's that Key and Peele skit? Say your name right.
They're gonna call Iroh Era.
And I'm gonna cut it off.
Is there an AA run?
Is there an AA run? And there's an Ong in here? No, it's not. So
is it a Ong?
Is there a Samantha?
A Ong. And so my serious things that I'm expecting from it is that I would expect a different side of the story that's already been told. And it goes into my second thing is that I need them to answer, why do we need a live action Avatar series? Because the original series was so well told and had such great character development. And even as they extended the story with The Legend of Korra, why do we need this live action production? What story are they going to tell that we haven't already seen that would grasp our interest? So,
can I piggyback off that, Portia?
Yeah, what's up?
I actually want to know who is the audience for this live action series, and what I mean by that is the generation that watched Avatar when it was releasing episodically is pretty much all adults at this point. Everybody who was watching at that point is pretty much adults. Is this live action going to take a more mature turn? Like, are we going to be seeing a little bit more blood? Are we going to see, even more sexual scenes and anything of that nature that actually elevates the mature aspect of it?
Well, here's the thing. You mind if I take this one? All right. So the rumor has it that they were supposed to be like making the story darker and aging up the characters.
So they didn't do that. They didn't age up the characters.
That was a rumor. But I personally, I'm not saying I want the exact same thing, but also I don't want them to make it cliche and like drama-y either.
Yeah.
Because most of the time when they remake stuff and they try to make it for new audiences. It's like, oh, we're gonna insert this unnecessary drama or these unnecessary sex scenes that don't really add to the story.
I don't even think they should put that in there. I wanted to touch on that about the maturity, because with maturity you do get sexual instances, but I don't. They should not touch on that in this series. Mm-hmm. There should be no sexual aspects in this series.
Or if it. Or I'd say if it does, it has to service the plot somehow. Because unfortunately, with a lot of TV shows where they have sexual scenes, it very rarely services the plot. It's just like, oh, we need to fill the time or be like show that these characters are close. But the sex scene drama.
But my thing is that because they're keeping the original ages of the characters, I don't think it would be appropriate for them to even
not at all
do that. Mm-hmm. Now, I would understand if the live action series was to focus on a older Avatar gang. Then, yeah, sure, that life happens. We're older. People got boyfriends, girlfriends, relations happens. But if we're going to the itty bitty squad where Aang is still 12, they gonna have to not touch that.
I feel you.
See, and even aside from that, like I tend to steer towards darker series, and when I'm asking, like, if they're going to make the live action more mature, like, for example, we're playing with freaking fire. Like, they showed how the Fire Nation burned the Air Nomads kingdoms. Like, yeah, they showed some skeletons, but are we finna see like past memories where we're seeing someone literally being burned at the stake? You know what I mean? Like, are we going to get those elements, or are they going to keep it more toned down for the younger audience?
Well, question: are you asking, like, when you say darker stuff, so are you talking about like more akin to like Legend of Korra, where they actually like showed on-screen death and it was somewhat brutal?
Yeah, like, are they really finna dip into that? That's why I'm asking, like, what audience? Like, is this going to be PG-13? I know it's not going to be rated R, but like, what type of audience is this pertaining to?
That's a good question, because it could go either way depending on. But
yeah, and part of me just thinks that they're trying to remake it into live action because that's what a lot of people, for some reason, in America, it might be in other places, but we have a stigmatism that if it's not live action, it's not for adults or something like that, or it's lesser for some reason. Like,
but I mean, it wasn't like necessarily for adults to begin with, though.
I mean, technically, that wasn't the intended audience, but many people in the age of adulthood did watch Avatar.
No, correct.
Like, it was popular amongst all generations, to be quite honest, when it came out. But what I'm saying is, like, unfortunately, in America, for some reason, there's some stigmatism on animated movies or shows where it's like, if it's not live action, it's less than, or it's not for adults. Like, for instance, people, like, when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, there was a whole bunch of people who avidly will go see Marvel movies, and then when that one came out, they just decided not to see it for some reason. Like, people were talking about that online a lot.
Is it the stigma that some people just still see animation as like childish?
I think it's that. I think it might be that, or they just view. Yeah, I think it might be just the fact that, like, certain people still view animation as less than.
I would say that I feel like they're making a live action because they're trying to hop on the trend of all of these animated classics are becoming live action. Like, they did a live action SpongeBob, and like, for what reason did you have to make a live action movie out of SpongeBob? You see what I'm saying? But it's the trend that and I don't want to, touch away too far, but look at all of these live action remakes that Disney has been doing. For what reason? And maybe
they are unnecessary.
Netflix and Hulu and all of these other productions are trying to hop on that trend because the Disney movies are making so much money being live action. It's like, okay, let's take some of our animated classics and make them live action.
Well, if it's in that vein, then maybe the live action series audience is intended for old viewers who possibly have children now who didn't get to watch the animated series as it was coming out. Because that's what some people said, like, argue with the Disney movies are for, like the live action ones. They're a way for older generations to share it with newer ones that didn't get to see it as it was like produced or made.
I think that's,
but I mean, that's a loose one because Avatar the Last Airbender series can be streamed now, and you can buy the DVDs and Blu-rays. Like I own the Blu-ray collections.
I was just about to say that.
Series.
Like you can get the series.
It's kind of a loose excuse, but I think that might be one of probably the main one is that they're thinking probably in that vein, especially if they're going off of the live action renaissance of animated stuff becoming live action, because that's the excuse I think Disney used for theirs.
I think it's a cash grab.
Because definitely. Because I just feel like the excuse they're gonna say is that
100%.
And that's the interesting part, because I can't think of any other reason. Like, why did y'all do this versus just another animated series, another Avatar? I don't really see the purpose in it.
Yeah, because I mean,
I'm excited for it, but
it might be one of the things that they have to just see through at this point, because when they first announced it, it was going to be with the original Avatar creators, and at the jump, that's a cash grab for Netflix anyway. And at the same time, they were putting a lot of Nickelodeon, and they still are putting a lot of Nickelodeon content on Netflix. So now that the original creators have stepped back, it's kind of like now we have to see this through.
Yeah. And I mean,
because the big question when they left was, are they even going to continue with the live action series now that the original creators left, or should they even continue with it?
Well, a lot of people, or the other big question also was like, oh, this it's not even a question. Most people, I think, when they heard the original creators left, they were like, this is not going to be good, because if I remember correctly, the voice actor for Iroh commented on it, and he's like, I've done a lot of projects, and usually when stuff like this happens, that means that the end result is not going to be quality or good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it could either be. Oh, go ahead.
You can go ahead, Ace.
I was about to say, it could either be a good thing or a bad thing, because going back to what you were saying earlier, Portia, if they just gonna show us the same story from the animated show, like you said, what is the point of us even doing this at this point? I don't even want to watch it, because why would I watch this when I could just go back and watch the originals? In my opinion.
Well, let me push back at you. Let me push one sec, Portia, because I saw your face. But let me push back at Alex. I saw your face. I think I know where you're going. But let me push back at you, Alex, because if they're going to make it live action and they want to add a spin on things, in my opinion, why not just do Avatar universe, whole nother Avatar?
I agree.
Because if you're not going to remake the exact same story, just give us cool CGI's, live action actors and actresses that we can relate to. If you want to give us a whole new feel, you might as well do a different Avatar. They could do Roku with somebody if they're for live
they
action.
Could have, which is like you're saying, well, why are we even doing this? Because I mean, me personally, I just don't want to watch the same story again. Like that, it has to be some type of spin, or just show me something that they didn't show in the animated version at least. I just don't want to sit here and watch the exact same thing.
I'm gonna say this, and this may be why. Because I don't know. I don't know what went down at Netflix Studios, but we know that big productions and the showrunners and the creators of certain series, they always have their differences. And it could have been that the original creators wanted to go a different route with the show. Live action Avatar series doesn't necessarily mean Aang and Katara in them. It could have been what Ryan was saying. We're in the Avatar universe, but we're exploring a different story. And going back to the cash grab is that Netflix was like, no, we want Aang and Katara and all of them, and this is what we want. So it
could have been that.
But I wanted to play devil's advocate on the Netflix thing, is because everybody, myself included, when we all heard that the original creators left, everybody was like, oh, hell no, this is going to be bad. I'm not about to watch this. I even said it. I was like, they got one episode out of me to keep my interest. But looking at it, Netflix, the adaptations that Netflix has made from comic book and video games, from my experience, have not been bad.
Yeah. No, besides the Umbrella Academy and The Witcher, which other ones were you referring to?
Right. So from my experience, they don't do a bad job with live action adaptations. Or even, and this is not live action, but even with like certain remakes, like how they redid She-Ra. Like She-Ra is this old 80s cartoon that everybody used to watch. but they took it and they threw it on Netflix, and it became a big hit. Like, they completely changed the story. They kept the same characters, but they completely kind of sort of changed the story from what we saw in the 80s, and it still came out to be good. And people still enjoyed it. Even the old fans who watched the 80s version enjoyed this new edition of it.
Yeah, like same thing. They also did the same thing with Voltron too. So they are known for being pretty decent when it comes to certain remakes and stuff. I'm not gonna discount them on that.
So it's what Ace was saying. It could be a good thing or a bad thing that they left. It could even be that the creators, maybe their idea just wasn't good. What if they lost their touch? You know what I'm saying? And Netflix was like, yeah, that's good and all, but I'm not really messing with it. And, you know, they could have just been like, well, we finna dip.
The world may never know.
I don't necessarily think that, but I mean, that is possible.
It's hypothetical. I don't think that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just think of the Star Wars with George Lucas. From what we heard, George Lucas had some really good ideas for this last Star Wars trilogy. But Disney did not go with it. The directors did not go with it.
So. Yeah, and people attribute the success of the original trilogy to not even him, but his like assistants. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the creators sometimes don't always have the best opinion. I get that. I was just saying, like, I feel like if they're not doing well with the universe they created, it'd be kind of odd. And then also, not to get ahead of ourselves, but they did trust a whole entire studio to them even after they left.
But it was because they shooted out the studio. We're going to get to it. But Nickelodeon shooted out the studio because they left Netflix. If they had stayed, do you think Netflix would have launched the Avatar Studios?
Do I think Nickelodeon the Paramount would have launched it? I probably not as soon as they did, but I think it was a plan. I think that was that was a working plan, because in my mind, they knew they were launching a streaming service, and they knew that fans of the Avatar series were still very dedicated to it, because their sales as far as like the Blu-rays collections are still good. The comics get bought up when they come out. Like, people know that the Avatar fandom is still very much dedicated to the universe of Avatar. So I feel like if they probably would have waited till the Netflix series was done, or they just would have worked parallel with them or something like that. Because I really feel like that was a conversation, because I want to say that announcement happened almost immediately, like a little bit after they left. So they probably had it ready for them to take the helm of. They just knew they were working on a different project. And then when it fizzled,
no, I think Nickelodeon saw them an opportunity, and they was like, it's a now or never type thing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, the creators have said, even when they were working on Korra, that they had a lot more for the Avatar universe in store in the first place. It's just they weren't ready to. It's an unfortunate thing with Korra, they weren't ready to come out with it when they did, because they kind of had only like the bare bones part of it rushed. That's why certain seasons feel off compared to like 1 and I think like 1 and 3 are the best. 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So.
Because they were prepared for season 1 to be one and done for Legend of Korra, right?
Or at that time when they approached them, they said they had the idea for it. They just didn't. They weren't completely done. Like, it wasn't like how Avatar was completely like written. They didn't have it for Korra. So
see, and to not be completely against Portia, because I will have to agree, I don't have much experience in just Netflix produced movies and videos, but for them to redo The Witcher. And we have seen a lot of video game remakes. Well, video games turned into TV series and live actions. And Witcher is already from a book series that has its foundation, and from a video game it has its foundation. The live action for Netflix was still very solid, and it was very competitive with the other formats to enjoy the Witcher series through. So I'm not mad that the original creators ain't on it. I'm just a little, I'm cautious. You know what I mean? I'm not finna sit here and overhype this live action series like I'm expecting it to be amazing, because we're not going to deny that the live action movie was trash, boo-boo garbage.
I also feel like we're being overly sensitive because we're all Avatar fans.
The movies?
The actual... Come on now, Jay.
Yes,
you remember that.
But I mean...
No. I was just saying, like, while I agree the movie leaves a bad taste in my mouth even to this day, I'm not trying to compare that to what they're doing at Netflix simply because it's not the same creators helming that project or whatever.
And then I will say, because didn't the guy who made the movie, he didn't even watch Avatar when he made the movie?
Nope.
So,
he made it for his kid.
So the showrunner for the live action series watched Avatar. He watched it as it was being released with his daughter.
Nice.
So he's an Avatar fan, and and from what it sounded like to me, he understands the hesitation with him,
right?
With the original creators leaving and now him taking over the show.
And honestly, if I take all that out, one thing, the biggest thing that worries me is kind of something we already, Pope already brought up. The Avatar universe, or like the Avatar series, has heck of fights with all the powers and stuff like that in it. So it's like the CGI has budget has to be extremely large, and they have to be on top of it, because the thing is, if those fights don't look good, people are gonna get like turned off on it by that within like the first couple of like episodes or whatever.
Or the first episode. It depends on how long they make the episodes, because I want to say book 1. It may have been episode 1 or episode 2 where Zuko shows up, the Fire Nation, and they start, doing their thing, like. So they don't have very long to show us some CGI stuff. They got like.
I mean, within the first episode, the iceberg breaks, so it's like frame 1, my guy.
show me what you got.
You also got to think those ain't even the major scenes that they'll really need CGI for. Let's not talk about the battle at the North Pole when Aang turned into a freaking koi fish spirit.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just saying though, in general, like the bending has to look solid. Like in the movie, it took 5 earthbenders to move 1 rock, and that what?
I agree. That's my main gripe.
Because I honestly, I was like, the story's already tailored, legit. Like you have the roadmap for almost everything else. What worries me is, are you going to be able to deliver on the thing that makes the Avatar universe interesting, which is like the bending and then the spirits?
Correct.
Because those things happen throughout the show. And if you're rewriting it in a way where there's barely any bending, is it really even Avatar?
Correct, because I'm not coming here for no Avatar drama show. That's not what I signed up for.
We not coming here for the soap opera. I ain't come here for that.
That's not what I signed up for.
Because I'm here for the story. I'm here for the story, but at the same time, my Avatar story that I grew up with had good fights and nice action, and it gelled them very well. So it's like.
Yeah, I guess my concern is going from animation, because animation has no limits, and we know this. Animation has no limits, and to take a animated production such as Avatar and turn it into live action, hell yeah, you're gonna have some high expectations because of what we seen in the animation.
As I don't know if anyone else here watches the honest trailer videos on YouTube, but as they said in their honest trailer for Avatar, they should not have made that series so good, because they've made it very hard for it to be adapted into anything. To be quite honest,
I mean,
that is true.
It's either going to be a hit or miss with Netflix. They either have very good originals, or they just have originals that are just complete trash. So it's either going to be a hit or miss.
Yeah.
But we like Portia said, they got 1 episode out of me.
They got 1 episode out of me. Listen, they got 1. But we've kind of already been talking about this, but let's make it known of what would turn us off from the series. And my 2 things is that, 1, the story, whatever story it is, whether it's Aang and them or it's somebody else, if they do not stay true to the lore of what we already know, that would turn me off from the series. I understand it's live action. I understand that it's Netflix and they're trying to put something out there new, like whatever they're going for. But don't change. I don't want them to change stuff just to change it, or to try to sell us a new story.
Yeah.
Or a new universe. That's what I don't want them to do, because the Avatar universe is already well established, and like Jay has been saying, they're still making content. Comic books. They just dropped this Kyoshi series that ties into the Avatar universe. So they have to stay true to the lore. I understand that this is a fresh new series. You want to show us something new, but stick to the lore. Stick to the status quo. For real.
I agree.
The
And
second
that's the funny
thing,
thing. They could literally just do the exact same thing, just live action. Definitely.
I don't want them to do the exact same thing. Because that goes back to my point of why are we even getting a live action? Like, I could just go back and watch the animated series. You know what I'm saying? Give me something different, but stay true to the lore and don't change stuff just to change it. And y'all know what I'm talking about, where they make something an adaptation and they change something, and we're just like, what was the point of changing that? Or did that really need to be changed? Or this change that you guys make have no value
Doesn't serve
to
the story.
Right.
We're gonna come in and Moon Spirit is a polar bear now.
Right. And it's like, for what reason? And I would be mad at that because there's a whole symbolism of that fish and how he turns into that big koi
Yeah.
fish. And you make this man a polar bear, I'm gonna be upset.
shit.
But those are my two biggest things that would turn me off from the series.
Okay. I agree. Two biggest things we already been talking about a lot is one, the bending, and two, I guess the size of the scale of the battles. I understand that the scales of the battles may not be they probably can't be as big as the animated shows, but I just don't want to see them tone down the scale to basically if the animated show was a 10, I don't want the live action to go to a 3 on the scale of the battles.
Mhm.
That would be my main two issues.
I agree with that. You want to go, Ryan? Or
Yeah. I agree with y'all, and this kind of falls alongside being true to the lore. But I hope that the characters are true to themselves as well, unless the creators are trying their best to portray the characters in a different way. But I want lame ass Sokka. I want childish, free spirited Aang, who's a super emotional 12-year-old at the time. Like, I want the characters to be true to who they are as well, not just the lore itself, but unless their intention is to show me something different, I would love to fall in love with the same characters I was in love with from the animated series. Secondly, Alex, you brought up a good point: the scaling of the battles. Because yes, the CGI's got to be on point, but when you look at cinematography and just executing large scale battles like that, that costs a lot.
It does.
And so that costs a lot. That takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of actors and actresses. That takes a lot. But I do agree with that. I hope that some of the battles, like I'm definitely looking forward to the Battle of the North Pole. That's like probably the first thing I really want to freaking see, and I hope they execute on that. I hope it at least hits me hard enough to where I'm like, okay, this is good. This is real.
I'm going too far ahead, but if they ever make it past season 1, when Azula shows up, they have to be on point. She has
they gotta be on point.
to
The lightning
be
bending
on point. When Azula, May, and Ty Lee show up,
yes.
Part of the fact that 2 out of the trio are non-benders, they're gonna have to come with it.
Azula need to be a crazy bad bitch. Straight up. Got to. Got to.
So I guess for me, the two biggest things, and I know I've been talking about bending a lot, but that's not probably like the biggest thing. For me, the biggest thing as far as like what I need them not to mess up on is the tone of the show. Because the Avatar series is all about redemption, kind of. Like the spiritual story, like the story of Avatar, while being very cool, hyper, like frenetic with its action and stuff like that, but at its core is like kind of a personal story of like how I make up for the past mistakes or like the scars I have that left on me by this world. And if it doesn't grip me like it did in the show, it's going to be an immediate turnoff, because that's probably like one of the most important things as far as like the Avatar universe is concerned, with like its whole connection to symbolism and spirituality and stuff like that. Besides that, I think basically Ryan said it right. Like I want to see the characters I love, and if they change them for any reason at all, I need it to make sense. I need it to be an actual like understandable reason. Like I'm not like, I mean, the rumors have been dissuaded already, but like they were talking about, and one rumor was saying how they were gonna make Katara the bigger sister to Sokka, and I was like, what purpose does that serve?
That defeats her whole thing.
Because that takes away one of her key qualities is that that for how young she is, she's very motherly and overseeing.
Yep.
And I would hate for that to have just been like they changed her age so that she could potentially date Zuko and it not be weird. That doesn't serve anything except that didn't serve. I would say that wouldn't serve anything except for like some certain fans. So
right.
Like if they change anything with the character, I would hope that it would serve story element wise and not just like here's some like little change that we made. I hope you guys are surprised or whatever. Like that's not what I'm looking for, you know?
I would agree. It's because of the way we connected with the characters. And for us to show up in the live action and not feel that connection or the characters lose their purpose, like how Jay was saying, if they make Katara 16, that to me, it defeats her whole character development because her whole thing was her hate. Like she came in, she grew up too early. She had to take on this motherly role. Then it turns into her having this grudge against the Fire Nation because they took away her mother. And then you have her whole thing in season 3 where she goes to confront the guy who killed her mother. And then she basically, she let it go. And then we got to see that new side of Katara that even though this happened, I can come out a better person for it. So it's stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying, like changing stuff just to change it. Why are we making Katara 16? Even though she's not 16, but when the rumor came out, it was like, why are we making her 16? You know what I'm saying?
That probably was the thing they was going to do, but then when it got leaked and everybody was like, nah, don't do this, they was like, all right, we might need to change this back.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible.
They did it.
I hope not.
They did it for some feelers. Let's tell everybody Katara gonna be 16 and see how they feel.
see how they feel about that.
Survey says, hell no. But what's up, y'all? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get more updates from the mob. For the full discussion and more discussions like this one, click the link in the description. Thanks for watching.
Rock with it, let me pop my shit. Let me pop my shit. Hands up.